Hello, everybody. Good things happen on Fridays. I'm Rob Thomas. I'm a BG5 enthusiast. Love this stuff. I've been studying it since 2015 and practicing it for a few years myself professionally, helping leaders in small business, big business, do better things. And I always love bringing new people to you to have conversations with. And today I get to connect with one of my colleagues from Australia. How exciting is that? I'm in Dallas, Texas. She's in Australia. And so today we get to speak with Lynda Gaiao. She's a current student of BG5. She also has a lot of depth in the study of human design. Really quickly, for those of you that have never taken a course, you're just kind of finding out about us, BG5 is the career and business application of the human design system. So it's not different. We're not taking human design and changing it per se. We have given it a different language because, as you know, in business, there's everyday language used. So that's what BG5 is. So without being too verbose, hello, Lynda.
Hi, Rob.
Hi, thank you for joining me. I've been excited about this conversation ever since you agreed to it. And what I want to do, and I always like starting with first, is I want to give everyone who's watching right now the opportunity to learn more about you. So can you share more about your professional background and share about what you've been doing, and then also if you can share how this all tied into human design and BG5.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. It's great to be here, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to have a chat with you. So my journey into human design began close to 4 years ago, where I initially saw human design in an online group on Facebook, got interested and ran my free report, got the report and was like, I don't know what any of this means, and just put it aside for a period of time. As part of my design, which I learned later, networking is a big part of my the way that I operate in the world. And I had organized a networking group here where I live in Australia. And in that networking group, a face-to-face one, there were some ladies there who were chatting about human design, and they seemed to have this depth that I hadn't heard before, and it really intrigued me. And I was like, oh, I need to investigate this further. And I spent a lot of time researching online, watching videos, and I got all the books that I could find, and I read about it, and I got a framework of what it was about, and then decided, well, maybe it's time to have a human design reading with somebody who's actually qualified. And then that just really catapulted me into this like free falling of stepping off the cliff and falling into the void and just figuring out what does it mean to live my design. And then in my journey of doing human design, I came across BG5 because I was subscribed to Jovian Archives newsletters, and I think, or the International School of Human Design. And somewhere in there was a mention of BG5. And I think I looked at that. Every time I got an email and I saw it, I'd open it, I'd go to the BG5 website, I'd have a look, and then I would just not do anything about it. Eventually, like that calling to go with it, cemented at the end of last year, and that's when I signed up to the BG5 certification, and so I'm in the final semester now, coming to the end. How that all ties into, I guess, my professional background. When I left high school, I actually studied to be a teacher, and so in South Africa I ran a school, one that I built from the ground up, and when I also taught swimming for a long time. So I've been involved in the world of psychology and trying to understand the human mind and how people operate and really how they navigate through life. Because when you're teaching, a large part of that is really understanding the psyche of the individual and the issues that are coming up for them and having ways to help them navigate through that. So pretty much been on a self-exploration journey of trying to understand myself or the world around me or the people around me for as long as I can possibly remember. So when human design came into my life, it just felt natural for me to just integrate that into what I was already doing, which is since I've moved to Australia, it's just been working with people one-on-one, either in a business context, because I've been running my own businesses since I was 25. I became a self-made millionaire at the age of 33 by accident, actually, because I was just so aligned to doing something that I absolutely love doing. And I actually set a goal to never be a millionaire, because in my mind, I didn't want to become what I see a lot of people becoming when they make a lot of money. Like, it's a very distasteful way of living and being in the world. And I knew I never wanted that. So I actually said, I never want to make a lot of money. I just want to love what I do and just be who I am. And so that ended up happening by accident, because the money just flowed in because I was so aligned to myself. And one of the things that I absolutely love about human design in BG5 is it's the first system that I've been involved in that really gives you these key tools to understand the shadows and distractions that get in the way. Because there's a lot of things about enlightenment or following your path or being aligned to your career, but none of them really show you why we get off track. And so we're left floundering a lot of the time, trying to figure out, why is this pattern always repeating in my life? Why do these things always end up happening? What is wrong with me? Why can't I figure this stuff out? And what I absolutely love about both human design and BG5 is they give you not only a language, but an extremely logical way of identifying where they're going to show up. And all you need to do is start paying attention, and it automatically arises in your space, and you're like, oh, I see it now. Now I can do something with this. Because if I can't see it, if it's so locked in my subconscious that I have no awareness of how I'm being controlled, then those patterns are going to continue to repeat no matter what you learn.
Yeah. You really lit up when you were talking about that. I could tell that you were talking about your passion when you started talking about that. And you said a couple of really cool things that I picked up on. This idea of shadows and distractions, and the fact that our system, the BG5 and human design system, has a logical way of explaining these hangups and why and how they happen. And this idea of like, what's wrong with me, right? Like I see this. So I'm a recruiter, and I see this all the time. I see it both on my candidate side and I see it on the client side, right? And, especially like for the person who's on this path of leadership. So first of all, and maybe you've seen the same things. I definitely want to hear more about your perspective on this. But like leaders, when they step onto that leadership path, they typically initially, one of the first traps that they step into is the trap of comparison. Comparing themselves to another, or maybe their mentor or someone else that did it before, or something like that. And then because their trajectory isn't going the same way of the story that they heard of, or the person that they're comparing themselves to, they begin to fall in trap number 2, which is, there must be something wrong with me.
Yeah.
Right. And then they dig into either a self-help program, they find a coach who attempts to figure out what's wrong with them and then fix it.
Yeah.
They might even grab a book, right? How to Win Friends and Influence People, or the latest book by Simon Sinek, Start with Why. Maybe a book by Brene Brown, or there's all these resources out there, and those shelves are going to continue to get bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
However, and you touched on this, was so eloquent. You're like, this is the only thing that I've seen so far that really cuts right into it and says, look, here it is right here. Right. And so, so people can then understand it, know it, be aware of it, and then get on with it, move on. Right. Yeah. Whereas with these books, self-help programs, coaching gurus, etc., they never seem to jump into it. But, and that's how all of this is perpetuated.
Yeah.
In your most recent blog, you weren't talking so much to the business community, but this happens so much in the business community. So, by the way, everybody, you need to visit Lynda's blog. And at the end, she will share with you her web URL so that you'll know where to go to visit that. But she was talking about the concept of people using the term sheeple, right? People being sheep. And while it sounds derogatory, it's accurate, right? And people feel this, and it communicates, and they resonate with it, and they understand it, and they don't like it, right?
Yeah.
So Lynda, how would you, like, when we just talking about the leaders and then the shadows and distractions, and then this concept of sheeple, like, how do you see in the business world the leader? It doesn't even necessarily have to be a leader, it could be a professional, right? How do they step into this like mindless operation of just doing what the herd is doing, so to speak?
So for me, it starts way before they even get to those positions. When I was studying teaching, I did 7 years of psychology because I did a double degree, and I focused on really early children, so the ages of 3 to 5, and then I did the first 3 years of primary school. And across those two degrees, we did psychology of like the formation of the mind and the development of the child, and then going forward into the future, into adulthood and things like that. We covered a lot of different theorists, plus a lot of different education systems. And the foundation principle of it all is that the first 7 years is the most formative years of your life. And essentially, this is where we pick up all our conditioning, right? This is where we pick up the cues on how to behave, on how to live, on how to be, and what it means to be a girl and what it means to be a boy. And by the time we're 7, we pretty much have a formula of, okay, this is what it means to live in this world as a human. And from then onwards, we just keep running the groove on the records deeper and deeper and deeper. So when we're stepping into the business world or into the leadership position, we're basically carrying all of this stuff with us, and we go in thinking this is who we are and this is how we're going to run our business, or this is how we're going to be a leader in the world. And all of that is essentially a conditioning force that creates this sheeple effect where we're behaving like the crowd that we've hung out with for our entire lives, or we're behaving according to a set of rules that we've been told are the modus operandi for a business owner or for an employee. This is how you behave. This is what you wear. This is what you dress. You know, you're expected to finish school, go into university, get a degree, get a job. Then you get married. Then you have children. Then you do this. There's this like set trajectory that everyone seems to just plug into without questioning, you know, is this correct? Is this healthy for me? Is this actually my path? You know, and touching on the point that you brought up earlier about leaders feeling, you know, they get into this comparison mode. One of my people in my circle when I was running my school in South Africa, he came to me once and he said to me, there is no competition. It doesn't matter how many schools are around you, there is no competition, because ultimately no one can offer what you offer. If you're so connected into who you are as a unique individual, there can be no competition, really.
Wow.
You know, so there's all these unique little pieces and nuances that each of us bring to the table. And if we are being a sheeple, we're forgetting what all of that is. And we are actually just, you know, plugging into, you know, what a government says we should do, or what a political party says we should be, or what a cultural group that we belong to says how we should live. And they're rules that we live our lives by, but we don't question whether or not they're true. Just because they've been there for centuries doesn't make them right.
That's so true. Yeah.
And for me, it's about giving people the tools to actually wake up from that, to see where we slip streaming into this record path and we're just repeating cycles, or we're going deeper into the groove. And you know, when we can actually step back from that and go, wow, you know, I don't need to do that to be an effective business person. I don't need to follow these rules to become successful. I can actually just do what is right for me, what is healthy for me. And in, you know, the flow on effect of that is, you know, when I'm filled up on the inside, when I'm lit from within to the outside, it flows over, right? And it starts permeating into everything we do. And we start having people in alignment with us, and we build a business that when people walk in the door, they go, look, I'm not into energy or anything, but something's going on here that I can just feel and sense is amazing, and I want to be part of it.
Yeah. So true. So for those of you that are watching, I hope that you are paying very close attention. Why? Because Lynda, so we have 4 career types in our system. And Lynda is what's known as an advisor. Okay. And she is a very, very wise advisor. So the advisor, by the way, is the easiest way to think of them is they are a guide. that is their gift. Her gift to you, to anyone that she works with, is to guide them, right? She's able to see. So the advisors are the only ones that can see this, okay? And you'll understand this when you take the courses. She can see into the other. She can see what's going on in their universe. That's what makes her such an effective guide. One. Two, you've already heard about the depth of her background. She came to human design and BG5 with a depth in psychology, right? And then not just from a studious perspective either. Then you look at the life experience that she has to bring to this game, to bring to this video, to bring to her clients. It's unbelievable. So, Lynda, let's go back to the shadows and the distractions, because that really lit you up and you really like talking about that.
Yeah.
How do the shadows and distractions, how do those come into play in the workplace? Can you give a couple of examples that come to mind as to how that might derail a professional?
Yeah. So for example, some of us are meant to commit to things up front. And, once we've committed to them, we've got this energy and this motivation to fulfill on that commitment. And others of us are meant to wait and really tune in the moment. Is this right for me right now? Can I commit to this? And what you see a lot in the world is people committing to things that aren't healthy for them, aren't correct for them, and they just ram themselves against the wall, and they will kill themselves literally to fulfill on this promise or this commitment that they've made. And that basically can essentially mean their business collapsing because they've stuck so high to this promise, because potentially the conditioning or the shadow or a combination of both has said, if I make a promise, I have to keep it, right? And people will kill themselves literally. Like some people will be literally dropping dead because of a promise that they've made, right?
Yeah.
But when they made it, they weren't tuning in. Is this actually correct for me? Is this healthy for me? Is this the way that I should be operating in the work environment? And if it's not for you, then you shouldn't be doing it. So that's just one example. Another example, so for anyone who doesn't know much about the system, when you have openness in your design, you have more and more potential for taking in conditioning. And this is where our shadows show up the most. But it's also a potential for wisdom if you can get to that place. First, we need to navigate through the shadow, see how the shadow shows up and how the distractions play out. And then ultimately we can become wise. So in my design, I have a lot of openness. So, I'm speaking from a lot of real life experiences of being trapped by these shadows and distractions in all sorts of places in my life. So for example, if you have an open, one of the open centers or functions in BG5 is all about the sense of like, I need to get all the jobs done. I need to feel free of all these tasks that are on my plate. Now, if anyone's run a business or been in even a high pressure job, you'll know that your to-do list is never ending. It doesn't matter how many tasks you clear off your plate, there will be more to fill them, right? And so if you start and you feel like, okay, I just got to get all this done, and you put all this energy in and you go quick, and you do it all and you clean it off all of your plate. If your boss gave you a job and said like, look, I'm giving you a week to do this, but you have this pressure inside of you that pushes you to do something faster, and you finish it in 3 days because you want it to be clear of these tasks, right? What's going to happen is your boss is going to come to you and say, right, well, that 1 week job, now you're only going to have 3 days to do it in from now. And mean that you can do it in 3 days. But then the pressure kicks in again. And that 3-day job, you now cut back to 1.5 days. And then guess what happens? Now there's an expectation of you to do it in 1.5 days. And this is how we can get ourselves into burnout, because we can consistently be controlled by the shadow or the distraction. And that keeps pushing us into dysfunctional behavior, which, it's going to be rewarded from the outside, because your boss is going to be going like, wow, you're amazing. You're the fastest person. I've never seen anyone get these jobs done like you should do. So you're getting the praise from the outside. So you feel validated in some form, like I've got to continue this behavior because I'm getting rewarded, and maybe even get a raise, right, in your salary doing it this way. But ultimately, it's not sustainable. It's like running electricity, like high voltage electricity, through very, very thin wiring, it's going to explode or fry or burn out at some point. And so when we know these things, we can set boundaries, and we can set a container, a safe container for ourselves to say, well, I've been given a week, so I'm going to take a week. And I'm going to make sure that in that time, I'm taking the necessary rest that I need, the necessary recouping, regeneration of my energy to ensure that I can do that job really well, fulfill all the pieces, and deliver on that time frame, but have space for myself in the meantime.
Lynda, I don't know that anyone's ever articulated it so beautifully. The pressure of the drive and the stamina is what we call it in BG5. That example was phenomenal. And so for those watching, I'm sure that she's absolutely speaking to one of you right now. You're like, that's me. I'm totally, under pressure to get things done. And, but I would just also, just to add to what Lynda's saying, is I would want to ask you, like, where's the fire? Right? But this happened, it's not your fault, because the corporate world is everyone's doing the same thing. And there's this frequency, okay, that is senior to everything. It's not going away. You can't run from it, but you can be aware of it and you can understand how it works, which is advanced study in BG5. We understand this, but getting things done, that pressure, it's not going to go away. Lynda talked about that. But then the other thing too is like, it's so interesting to me, Lynda, that we're in this time where being labeled a workhorse is like a high honor.
Yeah.
Right? So Congratulations, Rob. You handled the work of 3 people. Now, you had no energy for your wife, you had no energy for your kids, and now you've got severe adrenal failure. And for that, we're going to give you $1 an hour more. Congratulations. Right? Yeah, the way you articulated that was beautiful. But again, what she's talking about is the fact that this happens, well, until you're educated and you understand it, it happens below your level of awareness.
Yeah.
You fall prey to it, right? But it's happening day to day to day, every single day. So what Lynda and myself and hundreds of others that are taking this study and taking it out into the world, what we're excited about is changing how business goes, not only individually, but in partnerships and small groups and large groups, because it needs to happen, right? I mean, it's time, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the way things are operating is not sustainable.
It's not healthy.
I've never lived in the States, but from everything that I've heard, like the expectation of employees in the workforce in America is just ridiculous.
It is utterly ridiculous.
Almost no leave. There's no factoring in of personal life or circumstances. And a lot of people are working 2 or 3 jobs just to survive, and that's pretty scary that it's come to this place. I mean, this feels to me more like the Sheeple context. It's like just a cog in a massive machine. There's no personality, there's no personalness. It's just like, how many bums can we get on seats to keep the wheels turning?
You hit the nail on the head. I mean, so it's really not, because it's that goal that once you achieve it, it felt good for 5 seconds and then it disappeared like vapor, because then what happens is everyone's clapping, but now your boss is saying, now let's move to the next stop, then the next stop, then the next stop. So it's this never ending fulfillment, if you will, the contest that never ends. And it's really sad. And like you said, which was beautiful, is that this happened at a young age, right? Ever since I was a kid, I was told that, go to school, get good grades, get a good education. This is the command.
Yeah, work hard.
Go to college, get a good job. No one told me what good was, though. What does good job mean? What does that mean? Right? Yeah. And then, work hard, outwork the person to your left and to your right, work hard. What does that mean? Right? And then, go get married, have a couple kids, get your IRA set up, save for retirement, and then go sit in your lazy boy chair, get on a bunch of prescription pills, and die 6 years afterwards.
Yeah.
Like, that sucks.
Big time. Yeah.
And that dream's changing. Like, I'm sure you see this, in your circles, but I'm seeing this change as well. I think people are understanding that. Look, and especially, so I would just have to say, one of the gifts of this whole COVID thing is that it's, everyone was living life on automatic, right? And then all of a sudden it became manual.
Yeah.
And people are like, oh shit, now what? Right? And we talked about this in a class the other day, but I think people are literally standing there naked and afraid, like wondering what is going to happen, because they've been giving their authority away to the big institutions, big job, big this, big that. Mm-hmm. And when that stopped, and it was like, no, don't come to work. You may not even have a job. We're going to see what happens here. They're like, well, what? Now what? Yeah. Right? So they were freaked out. And so one of the gifts that I think that has come from this is being on manual, being standing there, knowing that it's only me. I think that the people have finally gotten around to the point where they could stop that automaticity and take a look at and re-inspect the whole scene, and maybe come up with some different conclusions, some different realizations. What do you think about that?
Absolutely. I mean, this is what's necessary for us to align to our designs, because while we're asleep, we don't know anything's going on. We're just plodding one foot in front of the other, just following the sheep in front of us, and just, keeping our head down, not trying to stand out. But when we can just like step out of the line and go like, oh, what's over here? Like, there's a whole new world here, and we can start going, hang on a second, this rule book that I was given when I was growing up, actually, it's time to toss it and set a new rule book that's created from my own authority, this guiding part within us, this compass that we can rely on and trust, and just put all of our trust into, that's going to show up for us in ways that are more magical, more amazing than we could even possibly imagine. And it really comes down to some really simple things. Doesn't mean they're easy to implement, but they are super simple, and relaxing and just letting go are some of those key points, which, when you hear the words relax and let go, how can that possibly bring me into alignment with success on this material plane? Well, you have to try it to see if it'll work for you or not, because if you just keep being a sheeple, you're never going to know if that's going to work, right? And what's so the alternatives? You stick plugged in to the sheeple mindset, or you step out and you try something different and see where that leads.
Yes.
And most of the people that I've worked with, pretty much all of them that have invested energy and time into practicing this, because it becomes a way of life. When you can make this a way of life, you will see the evidence for yourself. You don't need to believe anything I've said today. You don't need to believe anything Rob has said, because you will self-verify for yourself in your own process, in your own journey, that this is true.
For sure. So, guys, she's giving you an awesome invitation. You can keep business as usual. I would just ask you, like, what's at stake there? What is that costing you? Not in just financial sense, but in other, in health and everything else. I can tell you from practice of living this for 5 years that I'm healthier. And the magic that you were talking about, Lynda, I've experienced a ton of magic over the past 5 years. And like you said, it was far beyond anything that my mind could have ever mocked up. Like, it was more beautiful, actually. And I was going to ask you, you've attained something that every single American kid has been programmed. They all think they want to be a millionaire. You've done it. And so now you have the human design of BG5 under your belt. I wanted to ask you what that felt like. Was it the money that made you feel successful, or was it the attainment and living in alignment with how you were made to live professionally?
I think the biggest mistake that people make is taking the word success or even the word wealth and automatically associating that with money.
Mm-hmm.
Both success and wealth mean so many more things. They're actually really deep and complex. And so, as I mentioned, making money or making $1 million rand, so it's not $1 million, but $1 million rand, because I was from South Africa, right, was never a goal of mine. But I ended up doing it anyway because I felt amazing in what I was doing. I loved going to work. I used to be with people on the weekends and they would say, oh my God, tomorrow's Monday and I've got to go to work. And I used to be like, man, I can't wait to get to work. Like, I absolutely love what I do. And I couldn't imagine doing I don't know how you guys show up at work every day when you hate it. Like, how do you live with yourselves? And so I had pretty much, I guess, I don't know, you could call it lucky, but I feel like I really tuned in from a very young age to know what is it I wanted to do that would fill me up from the inside out. And I was able to study that and then run my own business around that. And what it meant is that my wealth and my success came from living in alignment. And it was about an everyday experience of joyfulness, peacefulness, satisfaction, surprise, awe, delight. In every day, it was encompassed so that I could navigate my days from that place. And when things showed up that were difficult to deal with or challenging, I was able to navigate through them a lot easier because I wanted to be where I was. And it felt good to be there. So to answer your question, aiming for the money is a trap.
All the time. What you were just talking about too, the feeling of success, the feeling of satisfaction, the feeling of peace and surprise and awe, those are cellular feelings. Like, the body feels those things. So for those of you that are watching, she's not talking about mental euphoria. It's not a mental thing. This was a cellular, like, yes thing. And like she said, it was sustainable. It lasted because she was staying in flow, in design, and doing what was true for her, literally living her inner truth. And that's what we're trying to get to here with BG5, is to help professionals in the workforce live their inner truth, live their plan, so they don't have to live someone else's, so that they never have to negotiate with bad health. And like she was talking about when she was with her friends, they were talking about dreading Monday. Man, if you dread Mondays, like, it is that is one of the signposts to say, hey, I am out of alignment. Something sucks here, right? Something's got to change. But isn't it interesting? So in Australia or in South Africa, do they also have Wednesday as being hump day? Got to get over the hump. I'm like, where's the hump, dude? I've never seen a hump.
Well, thank God it's Friday as well.
Yes. Oh my goodness. Yeah, like, everyone lives for Friday, man. Like, so recruiters, they drink a lot because they're very stressful positions.
Okay.
And on Thursday at 4:30, their week is done. Friday's a formality. But they're always like, yeah, Fridays, man, Fridays, and partially that's where that good things happen on Fridays came from. Was one of my colleagues. He used to say it because Friday was his day and he was so happy, and it was just, he was already off in his mind, right? Yeah. He was free from whatever the anguish was from the Monday to Thursday, right?
Yeah.
So that's partially where that came from.
So many people they always have a future event or date or occurrence that's going to be the place that they're going to get to when they can live their life, or when they can feel joy, when they can feel happiness. And this is another trap, right? You play the rule book so eventually you can retire, or whatever the end piece is, like the end goal. But the truth is, the only place to find that is right now, in this moment. If you can't find it here, you're not going to find it there either. So whatever you can do to throw sand in the gears, to get you out of that sheeple mindset, to wake you up from the dream or the illusion or the distraction or the shadows that are ruling your life, is going to help you to feel it in this moment. And, I meditated for 10 years, every single day, like religiously. And I did not get to understand my mind in the way that I do now until I met human design in BG5. It really was quite a wake up to realize how cruel and how dysfunctional the mind can be, and how much it can keep you in suffering in your life. And when you know how it works, all you do is you free yourself up. Yes, you may have pain in your life, you may have challenges, but you free yourself from the suffering. And that's the important piece, to find that joy, to find that peace inside of you, which is like, man, it's good to be alive. Man, it's so good to be me in this life, right here, right now. I don't need the house to make me feel like that. I don't need the car or the girlfriend or the boyfriend or whatever. I just need me in this moment.
I love how you put that, Lynda. That was beautiful. So I want to thank you for giving all of us your time and your perspective. Is super rich conversation. And by the way, I just want to point this out, that everything that Lynda was talking about with regards to the mind, she studied that, so she knows it. And here, you heard it. That's all I'll say. Like I would not even attempt to try to say anything like that again. It was so beautifully put. But yeah, it's, if you're watching this and you haven't taken a course yet, maybe it's time. I'm going to invite you to dig deeper, to look further. And if this, this subject, BG5, the idea of alignment, the idea of you being you, the idea of you living your design, or even that you have one that excites you, or maybe you just even like to learn more about and discover more about your shadows and distractions. We all start somewhere. But if you can't take your attention off of it, if it's pulling you forward, then I would suggest it is time for you to step on your path so that you can have lots of the experiences that Lynda just articulated for you. So Lynda, I really appreciate you giving us all your time today.
You're welcome. Thanks for the opportunity.
You bet. Bye-bye.